Did you know, emerging from the Federation, there was a thing called the White Australia policy?
During World War One, India actually served for the British Empire as well.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, that's crazy. Top tier of discrimination and racism. Gee whiz.
Or you have to be 100% European descent to as long as you have one European parent.
Bill was commended for his bravery.
Shout out to Bill.
Military medal.
Shout out. Right. There's also another video that I kind of want to check out as well. This video is relating to the Aboriginal soldiers in World War One. Did you know that in that time, emerging from the Federation, there was a thing called the White Australia policy happening in Australia, and so people who were non-white did not receive as many
rights,
benefits, what have you. And so Aboriginals were not allowed to partake in the war. Only people who were, mixed or majority European were allowed. So there's a video on that. I'm going to be playing that now. It's called Unlocking World War One Service Records, Indigenous Anzacs.
Funny enough, even during World War One, India actually served for the British Empire as well.
Yes, that's correct.
And Indian soldiers especially don't receive as much recognition. But when I visited the War Memorial in Canberra, I actually saw an Indian name in one of the list of deceased Australian soldiers. So it's kind of interesting to see that an Indian was part of an Australian army. So
yeah, many Sikhs were enlisted.
Let's get into the video. Catch it too.
Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have served in the Australian Imperial Forces, the AIF, in all armed conflicts, and it is estimated around 1,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander soldiers served in World War One. It is difficult to establish exact numbers, as the Army didn't record the ethnic origins of enlistees. Many concealed their background to avoid rejection, because the Defence Act 1909 did not allow anyone who was not substantially of European origin or descent to enlist. By 1917, the restrictions against Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders were eased, as long as the examining medical officer was satisfied that at least one parent was of European origin. However, many were able to avoid...
Well, that's crazy. Top tier of discrimination and racism. Gee whiz.
Yeah, so essentially, at the beginning of the Federation, like Khalid said, White Australia policy. But I think during the Soldier generation, I don't know when exactly that happened. Is it somewhere around that time as well?
It is around that time, yes.
Yeah, so I think that's why they removed this full-on, you have to be 100% European descent to, as long as you have one European parent. It also was during a time when a lot of people were immigrating to Australia as well.
That was correct.
So because of that, the federal government wanted to make sure that as long as they're fighting for the crown, we understand there's going to be a bit of interracial relationships going on. So as long as one of the parents European, you can fight for the army. But again, yeah, you're right. That's a bit of discrimination and... I mean, not a bit.
A bit.
Quite overt and clear here.
All right.
Able to avoid this requirement. Rarely was a soldier's Aboriginality noted on records. One of the few Indigenous soldiers who had their heritage recorded, as interpreted and noted by the examining medical officer, was William Reginald Rawlings, known as Bill. Bill was born in Pernem, Victoria, and worked as a horsebreaker in the region. Bill, along with his nephew Walter Christopher George Saunders, known as Chris, was one of the many Indigenous Australians who volunteered during World War I, despite restrictions. On 29th of February 1916, at the age of 21, Chris enlisted in the AIF. He was assigned to the 10th Machine Gun Company and went on to fight on the Western Front in France and Belgium. Bill enlisted in March 1916, aged 25, and left Australia for France 7 months later as part of the 8th Reinforcements to the 29th Battalion. During his first year in France, Bill suffered from trench foot caused by the cold, damp, and unsanitary conditions, and was eventually evacuated to England to recover. Bill rejoined his unit in late 1917 and took part in the advance along Moulin-Court Ridge. On the evening of the 28th and 29th of July 1918, the unit attacked a communications trench and successfully forced the enemy out. Bill was commended for his bravery.
Shout out to
The
Bill.
Victory Medal.
Shout out.
Well
On
done,
9th
Bill.
of August 1918, the 29th Battalion was involved in the capture of Vauviers in France. Bill started the advance, but was hit by a shell and killed instantly.
Oh, man.
He was buried in Heath Cemetery in France at the age of 27. Bill's
Thank-
nephew, Chris Saunders, survived the war and returned to Australia on the Themistocles on 8th of August 1919. Chris's son was named Reginald in honour of Uncle Bill. Reginald went on to serve in 2 wars and became one of the first Aboriginal Australians commissioned as an officer in the Australian Army. When researching and identifying an Indigenous service person, a place and date of birth can be useful. If the place of birth of residence was a location of an Aboriginal mission, this can be an indication that the person may have been Indigenous. Make sure to gather possible alternate names or variations in spellings that may have been used. Information on family members who may have been named on records can also help identify a service person.
So yeah, there's a lot of missing documents as well. Like they said, a lot of people didn't say they were Aboriginal just to, to not get questioned
Yeah.
on.
I mean, we should just replace Bob's uncle with Bill's uncle at this point, because shout out to Bill, bro. That man didn't freaking did
Yeah,
all of that stuff. That's like legendary stuff right there.
yeah.
Too bad he's buried in France. I think he'd rather be buried here in Australia, you know?
Yeah.
But-
Of course, where his motherland is.
You know what I also noticed? Like the Australia white policy things too. They're like, as long, if you have to determine, you can determine the Aboriginality by missions,
hmm
which meant another word for like,
Yeah.
conversions and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's a bit dark, it's a bit grim, but this is part of history. This is what men have gone through for a long time, so that we have what we have today. And big shout out to all the Anzacs and the families of the Anzacs. And yeah, let us know what you'd like to see from us next time. Give us recommendations and suggestions on what we should watch. Any other history topics that would be interesting.
Yeah, and because I'm not a history nerd, maybe you history nerds out there, can you guys recommend something and change me into a history person? Give me something really interesting so that we can react to it and then see what's happening. All right?
All in all, salute. Have a good day. And
See you next time.
Dog
see you
Bill.
next time. Yeah.